Herzlich willkommen zu einer besonderen Ausgabe von Umwandeln. Heute soll es um die Auswirkungen von fossiler Energiegewinnung gehen. Wie ihr seht, befinden wir uns an einem Tagebau in der Oberlausitz. Es handelt sich dabei um das Braunkohleabbaufeld Nochten, und die hier gewonnene Braunkohle wird im nahegelegenen Stromkraftwerk Boxberg verarbeitet.
Braunkohlekraftwerke gelten als einer der zentralen Emittenten für das Treibhausgas CO2, und durch ihren hohen Schwefelgehalt gelten sie dabei noch als besonders umweltschädlich unter den fossilen. Aber so ein Tagebau wie dieser ist nicht das einzige Beispiel für das Abtragen und Aufreißen der oberen Erdschichten zur Gewinnung von fossilen Energieträgern mit all ihren Auswirkungen auf das globale Klima.
Hier in Nochten werden sorbische Gemeinden teils gegen ihren Willen umgesiedelt. Es werden Naturreservate unwiederbringlich überbaggert, und es droht auch die Absenkung und die Kontamination des Grundwassers durch Sulfate. Welche langfristigen Folgen das hat, lässt sich überhaupt nur schwer abschätzen.
Die Vertreibung von Menschen und die Zerstörung ihrer Heimat zur Gewinnung von fossilen Energieträgern wirkt in Zeiten der Energiewende und des Klimawandels absurd, ja sogar schizophren. Während wir hier in Deutschland teils Übergangs- und Ausstiegsszenarien aus den fossilen Brennstoffen diskutieren und auch Bürgerinitiativen teilweise die Erzeugung von regenerativen Energien in ihre eigenen Hände nehmen, sieht das in anderen Teilen der Welt noch ganz anders aus.
Und deshalb haben wir uns mal mit Gitz Crazyboy zusammengesetzt, einem der Protagonisten aus dem Dokumentarfilm The Yes Men Are Revolting. Er gehört dem Stamm der Blackfoot an in Alberta, Kanada, und engagiert sich in Fort McMurray, seinem Wohnsitz, gegen den Abbau der Teersander zur Gewinnung von Erdöl, denn auch seine Heimat ist von ähnlichen Auswirkungen betroffen.
My English name is Ryan Derange, but I haven't self-identified as Ryan for like years. My indigenous name, my real name is Gitz. It's short for Gitz and that's Blackfoot. It means it's the way we express love to one another. I'm wrapping my love around you. So it's pretty hard to say like Gitz, so just Gitz. People get that. I come from two nations. My father is Denisoothlanais. Those are found in northern Alberta, northern Saskatchewan, parts of northern Manitoba, the Yukon, the Northwest Territories. And you can find Denisoothlanais people and our related people all the way down from they tip the Yukon all the way down to New Mexico, which is in the southern states. My mother's side is the Blackfoot side. We call ourselves Bikani. Our six gates at that be.
What does it mean?
Just like the original people. This is who we are. This is us. What my involvement is, I work with kids. That's what I do. There's people who are activists and they work with Greenpeace, NGOs. I don't do that. I don't do that because I'd be accountable to them. You know, the minute they start paying me, the first people I have to make sure I satisfy, as always, is your boss. My boss is not any of those NGO groups. That's not who I'm here to please. I work with kids. The people I'm accountable to is my people, the elders, my family, the kids I work with, my friends. My affiliation with all of this is just talking about tar sands issues. A lot of people can't because they work in the tar sands. They want to be able to say something, but the minute you become critical of it, you get blacklisted or you're pushed out of your job. You know, and that's really the only economic thing that we have there. The only jobs that we have is tar sands. Everything else has been pushed out or polluted. There's conflict with some of them. I mean, some of them are just pissed off. The landscape has changed so much in the last 20 years. And 20 years isn't that long, 15, 20 years isn't that long. But when you're pushed off to these places, these reservations they have for us, the reserves, they're not places where you can build an economy. It's like trying to build something incredibly successful in a Warsaw ghetto. There's potential to grow something there, but the real stuff is outside of it. And then when we have minerals and resources found within our reservation, the government comes in and takes it. They'll find some law, some way to exploit it, some loophole, and they'll take it and they'll stop us from developing it. And so every other economy has been destroyed. There's fisheries, but the fish are so polluted now that they just stopped fishing. Like the fisheries are closed, so you can't fish anymore. They used to be hunting beaver and muskrat in the area because it was like the Athabasca Delta at one time was an amazing place to create an abundant amount of life. They put a dam in the late 60s, and then the tar sands began its extraction. And as a result, the water level started dropping drastically. And it killed and decimated that economy that we had for it. Even beyond all of this, we have stuff called the Indian agent. The Indian agent is no longer in existence, but we were trying to build economies in the beginning, farming, and everything would have to go through the Indian agent. And if the Indian agent said no, whatever it is you're trying to sell, you couldn't sell. So it's crippling the economy before it had a chance to grow. And the only thing we have now, really, up north, aside from menial jobs in school or nursing or the band office, is just working in the tar sands. So really, they say it's like the hand that feeds you. Why are you biting the hand that feeds you? Well, it's feeding us in one hand, the other hand is slowly smothering us. Well, James Cameron came up a little while ago. He sent some of his special effects people to look at the extraction process. So a lot of the stuff you see in Avatar, the way that they destroy the place is it looks similar to what's happening. And people who were from McMurray, that looks like tar sands. And the reason for that is the oil is unconventional. It's not a big pool of oil that's just waiting to be sucked up out of the earth. The oil and the sand have been pushed together for so long, they create a new type of thing, and it's just called bitumen sands. A type of material, it's just bitumen sands. The oil and the sand are the same thing, and that's why we call it tar sands. They try to call it oil sands because it sounds nicer, but tar sands is really what it is. You hold it in your hand, and you see it. It's like pitch. It's like, I say pitch because even when you're if you're out on the river and you have a hole in your canoe, you can actually use that to patch it, and it'll hold. But to get to it, you have to chop all the trees down, and you have to dig up all the topsoil, and that's all fertile, rich biodiverse, a rich biodiverse area. And then you get to the bitumen, and then you start digging up all that stuff. And it's crazy because that's what you have to do. That's surface mining. They have in situ, which is also steam injected. So what it is they stick the basics of this is they stick two pipes down into the earth to where the bitumen is, and then they start injecting steam. Steam goes down one pipe, the extraction process happens at the bottom, and then the other pipe, it sucks everything back up. The only problem is we have a type of, I think it's sandstone, beneath everything. The hard rock surface is sandstone, and it's cold. Some places up north, we call it permafrost, and they're frozen year round. And it's good that it's frozen because it helps to hold the shape of the land. It actually plays into the part of biodiversity. But picture this. So how it works is like, if you were to have a bathtub and you fill it all up with soil and you dig your way to the bottom, as you dig your way to the bottom, you're trying to heat up the bottom part of the bathtub. And so you take a lighter and you hold it there. And it would take a really long time because as soon as the light hits the bathtub, the heat will absorb. And so it takes a really long time. And it's really energy intensive because they're trying to heat up basically that part of the earth that's cold. It's frozen. It's frozen. And so it's energy intensive. They use different methods to try to heat the earth. The problem with it is, when injecting steam, they don't take the water from the same place. They take it kind of from anywhere. And there's similarities to fracking. Whereas, it'll get into underground channels, waterways, and we're finding places that are polluted. It's just as dangerous. It doesn't look as dangerous from the surface, like when you're flying over it. Surface mining, you look up, everything's destroyed. You fly over in situ, you see these little seismic lines cut into the land. They have to recut them over and over and over again. That affects wildlife, that affects everything, migration patterns. The extraction happens underneath. The pollution happens underneath. It's basically like throwing a carpet over a coffee spill and saying, that's not really there. The coffee spill grows. The danger behind all of this, though, is oil spills. When it happens with conventional oil, when an oil spill happens with regular, you kind of just blow out the area. It stops the oil from pumping up. The pressure's gone. You can't do that with in situ. Near Cold Lake, this is Cold Lake, all right? About a year and a half ago, actually maybe approaching 2 years now, they had an oil spill. And so all this pressure is pushing the oil out. They can't stop it because the oil is finding its way up. And so it's been spilling for about a year and a half straight. They have no reason. They can't really find out what's been happening, what caused it. They can't blow it out because the pressure is pushing everything up. Once this chain reaction starts, it doesn't stop. The insanity behind all of this is they had the exact same oil spill, I think 3 years before. They didn't know what caused it, didn't know why it stopped. They just knew that it happened. And so they waited a brief period of time, and then the government said, it's safe, we can go again, you can go do it. So they did it again, and this oil spill is still ongoing. They say it's contained, and their idea of containment, and that's the funny thing, you gotta, like, when you identify stuff with industry, containment for them was building a fence around it. They call it reclamation, and it's the thing they push every year. For every 10 species of plants they destroy, I think they put back 2 or 3 species. So they reduce biodiversity a lot. Like 80% of biodiversity is gone in an area. And biodiversity is like an interesting word. It's an interesting concept to think about. It's plants, insects, animals, everybody interacting in one area. It's like an ecosystem. But it's the things there's the building blocks of an ecosystem. The more plants you have in an area that are coexisting together naturally, the more chance you have for life. So when you go down to like the jungles of South America, that place, there's an abundant amount of life there, abundant amount of plant life. And that's why you get these crazy, cool looking insects, reptiles, things. Because you can't look at a plant as just something to burn. You have to look at it as something, or just something to eat. It's a building block of life. It's either like a house, a medicine, food, or it helps to combine with something else to help something else grow. Like everything connects, everything's interconnected on one level or another. Like it all is. And it's amazing. We have a lot of wetlands up north. And so wetlands are kind of hard to explain. Like a swamp. You guys have swamps, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Our swamps are a little bit different in the sense that it's like putting a sponge in an area and putting water on it. And so when the water hits the sponge, and as the water seeps out, it gets cleaned in the process. So our wetlands help to clean the water. Yeah. Birds land there. It traps carbon. It's a place that naturally stores carbon. But to create one, you need about 15,000 years. Some of these have been created when the last ice age melted. And so when they go and you have to destroy a wetland in order to get to the bitumen. And so when you destroy one, they're like, we got reclamation, we're going to plant some trees. But that's not reclamation, because you literally need another ice age to happen end to end for you to create some of these wetlands places.
So once it's destroyed, it's gone.
Yeah, I mean, it's like if I was to, like, how honestly, if you were to have a car, I was to torch it and then give you a tire after. Like, here, here's a tire. You have a tire. Like, what are you complaining about? I gave you a nice brand new tire. The whole entire mechanism of your vehicle is gone. You have like a really nice looking tire. Maybe it has a nice rim. I don't know. Words like democracy, conservative, liberal, I know the concepts, but I don't understand them. Because they're foreign to me. It doesn't really quite compute up here. Like I can understand, I know that it's there, I just don't understand them. Different nations, we're not all the same in Canada. We have our peoples, like the Indian peoples and the indigenous peoples, they're different. Some are hunters, hunting buffalo. Some are trappers. Some are farmers. Some are fishermen. And it's different wherever you went. Geographically, wherever you're located, it kind of the land would dictate your society. When they started taking over the West, the white people, there was a really strong community in Vancouver Island, and they believe in the Potlatch System. So everybody pays into the potlatch. And it's not like you're paying money into the potlatch. It's like if you have anything at all, and you can make stuff, you pay into the potlatch. You pay into like the community. So you had an extra jacket, shoes, anything. It went into this thing, a system. And when people had these gatherings or celebrations, you would pay the community. And it's not in the same way as you like I'm paying you money. It's like I have blankets, I have shoes, I have a bow and arrow, I have a net, I have stuff that you can use, and I'm going to give that to you and your family. But you're not just doing that to one person, you do it to the whole community.
So you pool it in a way.
Yeah, and everybody shares it. This is the thing, is that the families, it comes almost competitive, but not in a demeaning way that we're used to with greed, like that competition is different.
So when you take something, you don't have a bad conscience that you took something?
No, because you're paying right back into it. Mm-hmm. Like everybody's succeeding in this. So when the fur trading started happening, these people were like, oh, well, we'll get money for this then. And then everybody started amassing these furs, and they started amassing these things they could trade. And so when they got all this money, it went to everybody. And they were one of the richest communities in all of Canada, right off the hop. Like as soon as they were like, oh, let's adapt to the system, let's incorporate it, let's evolve into this new system. They were on like Vancouver Island, and they were ordering shit from here, from Europe. Everybody else is struggling, and these guys are ordering hats, everything. Their hats, their clothes, their shoes, all this European stuff. And where did it all go? Back into the system. Distribution of wealth was equal. It's kind of cool. It's kind of cool you asked me that, because I've been able to sit with different governance systems that are indigenous, and it's hard. If a job needs to be done, you send the best person to do it. Even when we're hunting, we'll all go out. The person who has the best shot takes it. You know, as much as you'd like to, like, oh, I don't want to drop it. But the one who can actually hit it and drop it in one shot. That's the one who always gets it. He's not there, or she's not there, goes to the next person. And it's basically it. You have a dream, an idea, you want to communicate that to everybody. And the idea is like, you're gonna go. You'll communicate that idea to everybody. Like, this is the idea that I have. And you'd sit down and you would dialogue with older people who might have done something similar. You dialogue with younger people, because you can't see everything. You can't see all the angles. Like, how old are you? Don't mind me asking.
34.
34. You're really not 34. I mean, you're a lot older than that. You share the DNA of your parents, and their parents, and their parents, and their parents before them. And if you think about all the hardships your people had up until now, your family might have died out and should have died out several times throughout history. Whether we were like amoebas crawling out, or, you know, a creation from some deity that we barely understand, there's certain times throughout your history of your family that you shouldn't be here. Your family should have died. Like, same thing with me and same thing with you. But something happened. Something good happened a long time ago. And you think about your ancestors sleeping under the stars, developing civilization, evolving. You're the living embodiment of their dreams. Like, that's what you both are. That's what I am. Our ancestors dreamt of us now. You know, the decisions they made were for us. We're here now. And we've forgotten about that throughout time. And the best way that I could figure, because we all have this one commonality, no matter where I've ever gone with all these indigenous peoples and sat with them, is like, you're thinking of the kids, and you're thinking of the next generation beyond them. What your actions now are going to affect them in ways that you can't even see, you can't understand, you can't really quantify. But you know it's going to be an intense situation you're going to gift them. Is it going to be positive or negative? And so that's why the idea of the competition, I don't know if it really exists, you know, in a negative way, we're trying to put somebody down, because they're going to have kids. And in the end, we're all just trying to take care of each other. And so I guess if you can get that concept in your mind, let's create something. Let's create something that's going to get better. The next generation is going to see that and surpass it. The next generation is going to make it better. You know, let's create anything. Let's create a greenhouse. Let's have the next generation turn to aquaponics. Let's create a next generation that's going to add something else to that and beyond that. We have to adapt now. Everybody has to adapt to something. We have to adapt to it up north, because everything's polluted. You can't drink the water. You can't eat the fish.
Do you have actually
No. Right now, we're pushing that. That's the idea. We're pushing back as soon as I get back. Like, as soon as you're hearing about it now, and you'll hear about it maybe in a year from now when we have it actually up and running. You'll see like all the stuff we have online and videos and stuff. For myself, it was just like trying to. How do we make it work in a subarctic temperature of like minus 40, minus 50, minus 60? And working with people to finally figure out how to insulate it properly, and how to make it as best environmentally friendly as possible. And the problem that we have at times is we want to fucking hit it out of the park. You know, it's baseball. You want to hit it out of the park. You want to make that winning goal every single time. And it's just like, you know what? It's not going to be perfect. The next generation is going to perfect it even more. And it's just something that you kind of realize after a while. But I mean, you're hearing about it now. In about a year, hopefully less than a year, we'll have everything up and running. If it works, it works. If it collapses, it collapses. But we're going to make it work. We have two realities. We have three realities in front of us. The first reality is that we're completely wrong about climate change and living conservatively, like we have to take that in consideration. I'm willing to entertain that thought that we're all just a bunch of hippies on a boat that's really going nowhere. And the worst thing about living conservatively and being wrong is what? No, it's nothing.
No.
Nothing at all. I mean, if nothing happens,
then
nothing's wrong. We can go back to partying like crazy, and creating as much waste as we possibly can, consuming as much resources as we possibly can, because we're not doing anything wrong. The other thought, though, is that the other contrasting reality is that we are creating destruction. We are destroying different aspects of our human civilization. How many resources are you willing to give up? You gotta ask yourself, how many resources are you willing to give up before we realize that we're wrong? And there's the one precious thing that we can't give up is water. And we're running out of that around the planet. We have studies showing us this. We're running out of fresh water. Fresh, clean, drinkable water. How many of these things do we want to give up? And that's the two realities that we have, I was gonna say three, but the second one can be broken off into like different ways of living. But that's basically it. If we are having an impact on the planet, then again, we're back to two scenarios. The first scenario is that we can change. The second scenario is that there's already an impact and we just have to sit here and wait for it to, like a wave hitting you. I don't know how big the wave is. I don't know how long it's going to last. That's where we're at right now, and that's scary. I was talking the other night about being fearless or being fearful, and fearlessness is like we can take the stage anytime and hijack a microphone to kind of create awareness. We can use art anywhere to open people's minds and perceptions. We can sing songs. We can do these things, and sometimes they take a lot of courage, But being fearful is living in a place where you're afraid to walk down the street because you're gonna get shot. That's an actual reality. That's fearful. You don't want to drink the water because it's poisoned, or if there's fracking, you can light it on fire. That's fearful. That's like real. To become fearless is that you have to get over the illusion of fear. And so sometimes you have to do these direct actions. Sometimes they can be fun and hilarious, and sometimes they can be scary. But you have to do these things now because we're running out of time. You can't say, well, I'm going to plan it for 6 months from now. You might not be alive in 6 months. Anything can happen to any of us in 6 months. You have today. You really just have today. No one's promised tomorrow. And so you have to do what you can today for it. And it could be something simple. It could just be like, I'm going to take a water bottle with me that's made of glass, and I'm just going to get that filled up, taps. And I'm not going to create any plastic waste. It might not create it, have a bigger overall impact, but that's the thing you can do for today. Or I'm going to plan with everybody else an event to raise awareness for something. That's what you have today. Stop thinking that we're going to do it tomorrow.
Eine zentrale Forderung der Bewegung gegen den Klimawandel ist, die fossilen Energieträger einfach mal in der Erde zu lassen. Dazu muss sich noch viel ändern, besonders auf politischer Ebene, aber es gibt auch einiges, was man selber machen kann.
Zum Beispiel gibt es die Möglichkeit, zu einem Ökostromanbieter zu wechseln oder sich mal bei seiner Bank zu informieren, falls man Geld irgendwo angelegt hat, das gegebenenfalls aus fossilen Energieträgern abzuziehen. Oder sich bei seiner Gemeinde einfach zu informieren, ob es da nicht irgendwelche Projekte gibt oder Initiativen gibt, wo es darum geht, wieder die Energiegewinnung auf Basis der Regenerativen in die eigenen Hände zu nehmen und sich da zu beteiligen.
Gitz hat uns auf jeden Fall versichert, dass er sein Engagement in der Zukunft für die Yes Men noch fortführen will und dass wir uns auf weitere witzige und fantasievolle Aktionen freuen dürfen.
Das war's für heute. Wir bedanken uns recht herzlich fürs Zuschauen und wir sehen uns beim nächsten Mal. Ciao.
Ciao.